hurtful, discouraging things that I ever experienced were when I was on American Idol. But I'm so grateful for those experiences because they really prepared me and kind of jump started me. I mean, like shot me like a cannon into the world of entertainment and what it was like being on national television.
Well, internet sensation, reality and television superstar, and Broadway showstopper Todrick Hall returns to the stage with his 9th and most electric tour to date, Monday, October 9th at Broward Center for the Performing Arts at the Parker. It's a new era of inclusivity, individuality, and acceptance set to a playlist of his greatest hits from Straight Outta Oz, Forbidden, House Party, and Femuline, as well as instant classics from his many albums. And they'll all be teed up in this special concert. Todrick is gay and from Texas, rural Texas. Well, let's talk about that. And he has a lot to say as he comes to Florida. Todrick Hall is a multi-talented performer, composer, actor, director, choreographer, and social media personality who rose to prominence on and after his appearance of American Idol. He continued to create content and build his brand on his YouTube channel, which has over 3.6 million subscribers and more than 886 million channel views. And as example, in TikTok, has more than 21 million likes. New music out recently includes his single, She Walk. I'm Al Ferguson, and welcome to Unapologetically Queer, where we talk to some of the most interesting people in the LGBTQ+ community who are the most interesting to the LGBTQ+ community. So, welcome, Todrick Hall, and I want to begin because I understand you are unapologetically queer. Is that correct? Unapologetic about it.
Unapologetically, it took me a long time to get place because I grew up in the middle of the Bible Belt of Texas, and it was very misunderstood at that time. As a young Black boy, I was expected to play sports and do football, but I realized that that was not where I shined, and that it wasn't unapologetic. Young people who looked up to me would have a difficult time doing it as well. So I've really formed to try to be a trailblazer kids to make this journey of being from queer to unapologetically queer, which is a long journey for some people,
yes,
to try to make it just a little bit easier for them.
Yeah, it's a great place for us to start because one of the things that I'd like to learn more about, and I know our viewers would, is just as you said, growing up in rural Texas, our cousins, unfortunately, our cousins in Florida in our red craziness, our cousins live in red crazy Texas. And you grew up in Plainville in a farming community. What was that like for you, being this this Black performance talent growing up in such a conservative place? Was it difficult for you, or how did you manage it?
Growing up in conservative Texas was very, very, very difficult. It was very, very scary for me because not even always I feel like I was going to be like challenged or threatened, but it was more difficult for me because I think that I was just very, very misunderstood, and that in and of itself was a very scary thing for me.
Yeah. One of the things I also want to talk about in your early days is one of the reasons why people should come to see you at the Parker concert October 9th or wherever you have an opportunity to see Todrick Hall. How did you get to the place where you're at? I read at age 16 you began performing weekends at the amusement park Six Flags over Texas. It was the first time you sang and danced. Then you go on, and now we're here in South Florida, so we know the cruise lines intimately. We're in Florida, we know Disney intimately, and you performed on cruise ships with Royal Caribbean and Holland America and the Walt Disney Parks. When you do that kind of thing, Texas, Six Flags and Disney and cruise ships, you've got to do everything. Tell us about what that experience was when you were so young to start your entertainment career that way.
It was probably the most beneficial thing to me because oftentimes people spend so much time in the rehearsal room taking dance classes. But for me, I got to spend my time perfecting my craft in front of live audiences, figuring out, to go through an 8 show a week once I finally made it to Broadway wasn't that difficult, because I had been doing 8 shows a day sometimes at Six Flags. And I worked at Busch Gardens as well for a brief moment. And so it really helped me fine tune my craft and learn how to sing through and learn how to be able to maneuver my voice and work through injuries with my body, and how to understand my craft in a different way, that being in a dance class in a dance studio a couple times a week just won't teach you. So it was really informative to me for that reason. But I also got to be around so many queer people at such a young age and find out how they navigated relationships in a way that I would have never seen in high school. So I think that was part of what helped me come out of the closet. I came out at 15 years old, which was very early at that time. And I think had it not been for my experiences at Six Flags and on the cruise ships, I wouldn't have been able to get to this level of unapologetic queerness so quickly.
Yeah, and I want to come back to that when we talk about your performance at the Parker and coming to see you in live performance. Just the tease, you're not going to watch a stand and sing and pose performance, and that comes from that experience you just talked about. I want to talk about your early days in YouTube. You went to YouTube and come on the platform in May of 2006. I have so many social media influencers that live and literally die in their social media strength. You really cut your chops in YouTube starting in 2006. I saw a video a long time ago, and in getting ready and preparing for you, I went back and looked at it again. You did over 300 in just the first 5 years, and your most famous was this hilarious clip, and I remembered it, and I've gone back to watch it again, of you ordering McDonald's through the drive-thru, complete with backup singers. The video has received over 10 million views. What was the inspiration to do that kind of performance work in YouTube? What motivated you to do that?
I have been basically doing YouTube before there was a YouTube. I just didn't have a platform to put it on. I was writing musicals, doing skits with my friends, and YouTube was the new frontier. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be so cool? I was driving down the street, and McDonald's, unfortunately, just happens to be one of my favorite restaurants. And so I was like craving, that order, what I sang in that, a number 6 supersized. And I was like, I was writing this song in my head as I was thinking of what my fast food order would be. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun if I turned this into a song? So as I was in Dallas DFW traffic, I wrote the song and just had my friends come with me and sing it. We did it one time. And honestly, the true star of the video was the person who was there behind the desk taking the order, because she so nonchalantly understood the order without ever meeting us, without ever hearing us. She honestly was a huge part of my YouTube career popping off, because she was just the exclamation to the song. The song was cute, but her response was the thing that tipped it over and made it viral.
I have a complicated order.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you listening?
Yes, sir.
Well, I want a number 6 supersize with the Sprite and large fries. Mustard ketchup only, please. But don't you forget that cheese. I got a sweet tooth, but I'm in a hurry. Can I get one big McFlurry? Give me one of them sprinkled with some M&Ms. I'm feeling them. Excuse me, ma'am, but baby, can you tell me, did you get that? Was it too fast? Cause I don't wanna have to come back. No, to the drive-thru, to the drive-thru. Can you hear me? Am I coming in clearly? Cause if it's Mickey D's, then please, I'm grabbing it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Did you get that?
Yes, you wanted the number 6 supersize with only mustard and ketchup with a large Sprite and an M&M McFlurry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, your total is 807 at the first.
I think people responded to it because it was so real. It was no editing, and it was something people, I realized, loved taking ordinary, mundane, everyday things and making them extraordinary. And so I started realizing that flash mobs and people seeing someone at a drive-thru start singing could be something that was really entertaining to people. And I was very blown away by the response and had no idea that that video was going to change my life.
You know, and for me, I'm a big fan of yours. I've seen you multiple times in concert. That's what I come away with, because when you watch Todrick Hall, if you have not been to his concert, that's the kind of commitment right from the very beginning of career that leads to the stage performance of the concert, because it's the jack of all trades commitment to the performance. And in fact, I recently read from your experience in YouTube and why you did that. We dug up this quote that I thought it was very interesting about your approach to performance and how you showcase performance. And you specifically said about YouTube, now this is a long time ago, quote, how
I'm nervous.
I approach the song is important because it allows me to create all the concepts, execute them, direct them, choreography, and create the choreography, do the hair, do the makeup, do everything, including the performance, end quote. And I thought that was so excellent, because you really cut your teeth learning how to do a little bit of everything, and makes that fun and something that we fall in love with. Do you agree?
Yeah, for me, I never had the luxury of having. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm actually working on writing my first Broadway show, and I'm not capable of just saying, okay, here's my piece of the puzzle, because I never had that luxury. If I wanted my dream to come true, I had to be the person who came up with the concept, directed it, produced it, wrote it, starred in it, choreographed it, everything, because I didn't have a team and I didn't have the funds to pay for a team that I felt would be at the level that I needed them to be. So I basically taught myself how to create videos, and you can watch the progression from that McDonald's video that started my career essentially to my visual albums and the videos that I've made in the more recent years. You watch the videos, whether you like the content or not, you can see the level of professionalism that is added to each and every video. And that is something I'm extremely proud of, because I had to teach myself a lot of those things and learn the hard way from watching a video go online and say, why does it look like this? What's wrong with the lighting? This choreography didn't really translate on camera as well as it did when we were there. Fault? Was it the camera's fault? How do we over this and make something that we can really, where the audience feels as similar to what we felt like in the room doing it? And once I started understanding that, I think my YouTube videos started becoming a lot more immersive, a lot more intricate, and something that started attracting people with huge brands to say, this is somebody who's not only talented, but he can market our content better than maybe someone in our own marketing team can. And how can we leverage that to help exploit our product? And that's when my life changed from being a hobby to really being more of a career path for myself.
You know, I have hundreds of friends that are in this vein, that are trying to explore and break through. I hope they listened to that TED Talk there, because they will improve if they listen carefully. I want to zero in on American Idol. By all accounts, it was your first really big break. You make the top 16. It's the 9th season in 2010. Was your experience on American Idol a good one? You look back on it now, 13 years later. Was it a good experience? Are you happy with it?
I think that the traumatizing gets tossed around a lot these days, because I think that life is traumatizing. I said something accidentally to an ex-assistant of mine recently, where I said, we were having a really great conversation. I said, people want an extraordinary life, but they want to get it ordinarily. And those two things don't oftentimes work together. In a perfect world, they would. I think that some of the most sad, hurtful, discouraging things that I ever experienced were when I was on American Idol. But I'm so grateful for those experiences, because they really prepared me and kind of jump-started me. I mean, like, shot me like a cannon into the world of entertainment and what it was like being on national television, and how you would be received, and how criticism works, and how cancellation works. It gave me a very, very early taste of what that would feel like. It was not easy, but I'm grateful for it, because it helped prepare me. And I started understanding very quickly what being in the limelight entailed, responsibility that came with it. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. And if I had it again, maybe I would pick a few different songs, a few different outfits, but I would do it again.
You know, it's funny because I watched that season. I've always been an avid fan of American Idol. In preparing for you, I remember your participation in the season. I went back and looked at a number of things of the 2010 season of American Idol, and I stumbled into Simon Cowell's quote. I'm happy to say that I don't remember it, but I reread it, and he was very dismissive to you. And I read that he said, quote, that Todrick Hall wouldn't amount to anything beyond a Broadway actor, end quote. Is that true? I don't remember it. Did Simon Cowell say that?
I don't know that he ever used the words wouldn't amount to anything. I don't feel like it was that dismissive. I just think that he was like, I think that is what you are meant to do, is be theatrical. And he kept saying theatrical, which it felt like a diss at that time. But I think that Michael Jackson was theatrical. I think that Lady Gaga is theatrical. I think Prince was theatrical. I think Tina Turner was theatrical in a lot of ways. Patti LaBelle, like some of the greatest artists of my generation and generations before me were theatrical and made their mark by wearing things that were over the top and presenting things in over the top fashion. So I didn't like the fact that he said that as though it were a negative thing, because I don't find myself to be Broadway and singing. I wasn't a trained singer. I learned how to sing from listening to the radio and replaying Lauryn Hill and Mariah Carey over and over again. But again, I took those things that he said and I used them as ammunition. I think, I don't know if it's an Aries trait, but the quickest way to make me do something is to tell me that it's impossible for me to do it. That'll get me fired up real fast. And luckily, I got my redemption from Simon Cowell. I got to go work in London on the BBC doing the show The Greatest Dancer, which he was a producer of. And he came back, and while I would have loved for it to have been televised, it wasn't. But he said, I'm very, very proud of all the things that you've been able to accomplish. So I would not have thought you would be able to do all of this on your own, and you should be very proud of yourself. And that validation felt great to me.
You know, Todrick, my other major memory of the big break, first big break of your career in American Idol was, I remember thinking to myself, this guy is gay. But there was no identification of gay. Was that an active choice? Were you not out? Why doesn't your queerness display in American Idol?
I think that was just a very, very, very scary time in my career. Sorry, there's a fan. Hi, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm on an interview. You're gorgeous. Thank you so much. We're outside doing this interview today because the music for our sound check for our show tonight is so loud that you wouldn't have been able to hear anything that I was saying. I think that it was a conscious choice, and it was a choice that I honestly was so devastated about, if I'm being completely candid with you, because I felt like that was an opportunity to let people know who I was and to be a light and motivation and inspiration to young queer kids, especially from places like I was in Texas. And I think that I never really gave all I had when I was on American Idol, because I was so afraid of people putting me in a box or knowing that I was gay. And I was already out to everyone that I knew, but my family it was very much an energy like, you can be gay and we love you and we will accept you. I never felt not accepted by my family, but I didn't want to embarrass my family by going on national television and solidifying my queer to the world and to America. I think that at that time that would have embarrassed my family, and that was more important to me at that time than inspiring a group of people. I was head over heels in love with my first love at that time, and I remember not allowing them to come to the audition with me because I didn't want people to see me there with a guy. And I have like a little white necklace on that my boyfriend made sure that I wore so that they could be there with me in spirit. And when I look back at that boy that was so scared to be who they were, it is devastating to me, because I was in love with that person at that time, and the fact that I cared more about my career and not embarrassing my family than being my true self was honestly very devastating. But when I got eliminated from that show, I was like, not so much devastated that I didn't win, but more sad that I lost being someone else other than myself. And that's when I essentially like made the vow to myself that from now on I would be myself, because I can take not winning if I'm being myself, but losing a show like that when I didn't feel like I really gave all I had, was the part that I felt wasn't true Todrick is at his core. So, yeah.
Todrick, I hear the deep regret in your voice. It's National Coming Out Month. We're getting ready to celebrate National Coming Out Day. You talk to 15, 16, 17-year-old young gay kids that are in the same place that you just described so clearly on American Idol. What would you say to them to say, show your authenticity of who you really are? What would you say during National Coming Out Day, based on the experience that you just so beautifully told us about American Idol?
Well, I like to say this disclaimer because I think sometimes it's very easy for us who are out and who are living in cities like LA and New York that are so liberal to say, come out, do it, don't be afraid. But to some people, it feels like life or death, and for some people it is, and some people it is a very scary thing, and they may not have a place to live if they come out. So to those people, I say, know your reality and come out when you feel safe. But I will say that if you are a person out there who feels like your parents are going to still support you, that you'll still have a roof over your head, that your life will not be in danger by coming out, it is the most beautiful, liberating, freeing thing to be able to come out as who you are. You don't realize how much you're holding on to until the moment you release those words from your mouth and release that tension and make it somebody else's problem. Someone else's homophobia or small-mindedness is not ever going to be your problem. And I don't think that you can really reach your full potential without really embracing every aspect of who you are. My career started to soar the moment I was able to come out and just be unapologetic about who I am. And you never know how many people's lives you're going to be able to touch or save or inspire by coming out. So I hope that this video is encouragement for somebody who out there is young or somebody who's in their 40s or 50s who hasn't come out. It's never too late to be your true authentic self, and the times they are changing. People are so much more accepting and so more willing to embrace you for every single aspect of yourself. And also, I learned very quickly that if somebody won't love you the same because they know who you are, it's better for that person to not be in your life. I hope that somebody out there is inspired by these words and that they take that step towards coming out and really walking in the truth.
That beautifully said, Todrick. And a mutual friend of ours taught the entire world, if you can't love yourself. Let's talk about RuPaul a moment.
How the hell are you going to love somebody else?
That's exactly right. You've had a long association at RuPaul. We've watched you so many times connected with the show. Tell us about your experience. What is it that you love about RuPaul and RuPaul's Drag Race?
I think that RuPaul is just a well of wisdom. Every single time I get the opportunity to sit down, I remember so many times sitting in his dressing room when he's signing his books, or he would sit down and show me and my friends, hours and hours of his Diana Ross video. And I just think that I feel like RuPaul takes your heart, opens it up, and your mind opens it up and just pours love and pours gobs and God wisdom there. And on those moments, I tend to be someone who talks a lot, but when I'm around RuPaul, I just stop and open up and listen. And I feel like I've gone to 12 therapy sessions. He has changed my life so much, just watching how he navigates through his career, how he stays steadfast in his vision, how he doesn't waver, he doesn't change his viewpoint. He learns from his mistakes or from things that the fans teach him, and he continues to be a great human being and such a light for so many people. And he's changed so many people's lives and changed pop culture, changed history, and given so many people who would have otherwise been in the background doing hair, makeup, dancing behind someone, he's allowed them to be able to live in their truth and be able to have the platform to control their destiny. Billionaires become influencers and travel the world spreading their message and their artistry. And to me, he's just one of the most iconic queer people to ever live, and I'm proud to call him a friend and a mentor of mine.
You know, Todrick, I'm curious. I've seen you in some absolutely stunning drag performances. In your music video, you're singing in the performance. Did your interest in doing that come before RuPaul and Drag Race, or during, after? How did that transformation of you putting on drag literally when it helped enhance your art, how did you come to that conclusion?
I don't know how I came to that conclusion, but I think you'd be hard-pressed to find many queer men that at their core don't wonder what they would look like in drag and don't want to try it. I think every man at some point in his life has put on a towel on his head and pretended it was long, weave, and pretended they were Beyonce or Britney Spears or Cher or Madonna, whoever their chosen diva is. And so I think I was always interested to find out what I would look like in drag and to explore that more feminine side of my life and artistry. But I definitely think that being close to RuPaul and watching Drag Race gave me the inspiration to go ahead and try it. And I still don't consider myself to be a drag queen because I can't do any of those things myself. And I think that art form is so specific. But I do consider myself to be an artist and a performer who blurs the lines of gender and that is more fluid. And I really, really enjoy being able to do both, so much so that I wrote a song about it.
Yes, you did. I want to come back to the note that Simon Cowell made about how theatrical you are. So he says that to you in 2010, and literally, whether that was positive or negative, I heard your answer. You go on and prove, well, yeah, I can do that well, and you take Broadway by storm. Multiple shows, Lola and Kinky Boots, and Billy Flynn, which really is the character that surprises me, in Chicago, both in Broadway and West End. You've talked about your interest. I connect the intersection of what we get to see from you in your live concert. Is Broadway part of the core of what you want to deliver in your creative career? Is Broadway really a super important part of it?
Broadway has always been my first love. In fact, when I do interviews and they leave that part out, I'm like, you have to put Broadway in there. Broadway is the thing that spawned my entire interest in being a performer. It's that anytime I'm having a down day or I'm sad, like I could cry right now just thinking about it, I run to the theater and I go sit down and turn my phone off and I get so immersed in the characters and the music. And I just think that Broadway, I love it because in this world where there's AI in so many ways to make someone who has subpar talent look incredible and iconic, if you're an actor, I mean, no disrespect to anybody who does television or film, but it's to me is more easily done up into a space to deliver a performance once, but someone who has to deliver that 8 shows a week is just, to me, the Olympians of the entertainment industry. There's nothing like being able to like bring a character to life and tell a story in front of a live audience with a live orchestra night after night after night, and have to make an audience suspend disbelief and believe that the ensemble are playing all of these different characters and that you're being transported to different places. I just love it so much, and I was proud of being on Broadway long before I was on American Idol. I was in The Color Purple when I was 20 years old, and it's one of my favorite credits, one of my favorite chapters of my life that I'll never forget. And so I never felt disrespected when Simon said that, because I always knew I had a passion and a desire to return to Broadway. But I don't like people having to feel like they're in a box. I think that you should be able to do both. You should be able to be a pop star and live your Beyonce fantasy on your tour, which is what I'm doing now. But I'm also working on writing my first Broadway musical right now as we speak as well. And I don't intend to abandon one world and do the other. I fully intend to live in both worlds. And my ultimate dream is to EGOT someday. And so I think that now, looking at those comments at 38 years old, I can say, like, I look at that as a compliment, because I did get that far in American Idol. I have gotten this far in my career without having to have Broadway, but I have consistently gone back and have now done 5 shows on Broadway. And I just love live theater. And I don't think that anybody ever being called theatrical or being someone saying that you should be on Broadway should be the highest compliment in the world, in my humble opinion.
You know, and Todrick Hall has just challenged us in his pursuit of excellence. When he says EGOT, reminder, he's pursuing the Emmy and the Grammy and the Oscar and the Tony. That's what he just told us. You sit, by the way, in an iconic position for me. In saying I'm a fan and supportive of Todrick Hall, the best way I think that you can represent that is to share the talent. I have shared you to at least 100 of my friends in one of the iconic silos of our community, and that is the Wizard of Oz. Let me just remind everybody. The Wizard of Oz in 1939 is basically our anthem. That song, Over the Rainbow, and the visual images of the movie is our anthem. Judy Garland is one of our iconic goddesses in our community. Literally, the rainbow of Over the Rainbow is the symbol of our community. It's as topical today as it was almost 90 years ago. The Wiz is coming back to Broadway, and Wicked is coming as a major motion picture. Todrick Hall forever sits in the middle of that because from my standpoint of what I would suggest, he has one of my favorite representations with your album Straight Out of Oz. The incredible music video with RuPaul of Low and what you did there, the song The Wizard of Oz with Pentatonics, your concert tour, it is just iconic, in my opinion, of the heart and soul of the LGBTQ community. Why your passion have you brought to the entire world of the Wizard of Oz? Why is it so important to you?
I think that the Wizard of Oz just represents so much about who we are as human beings and we desire. I think that the grass always looks greener on the other side, but you realize that home is where your heart is, and there is no place like it. I think just the word home means so many different things to so many people. But I think that as a kid, I didn't have Dorothy, and I always wanted to go somewhere that felt more colorful and brighter and with more opportunity than my place in Plainview, Texas. And I've always been a person that has like gathered friends, sometimes broken friends from different chapters of life, and wanted to take them with me on my journey. But I always remember home is and where my home base is and who are the people who resonate with me. And I just think that the story is such an American classic, and a song like Somewhere Over the Rainbow that shouldn't be as universally like moldable as it is, but the fact that you can sing that at a birthday, at a funeral, at a wedding, at any type of celebration, and almost everyone remembers where they were the first time they heard that beautiful song sung by Judy Garland. How many iterations there have been of The Wizard of Oz. For some reason, that story just resonates with so many people, and it's a story that I've carried with me my entire life, and I've just loved it since I was a child.
Did you know when you were creating the music for Straight Outta Oz, how beloved, especially in the LGBTQ community, and especially from gay men, were you aware of what you were doing when you were in the midst of that creative inspiration? Did you know what you were doing?
I did not know what I was doing. I just knew that I loved it, and honestly, the reason I did it was because someone came up to me and they were like, "We don't know anything about you as your fans. We don't know where you come from." I just had played so many different characters in my YouTube career, but I was such a theater performer by that time that I didn't feel comfortable being vulnerable necessarily and talking to people, because I knew that that wasn't necessarily my strong suit, or I didn't feel like it was. And so I decided to write the story of my life with the Wizard of Oz being like the paralleling, through line throughout the show. And I wrote it so fast. I wrote the entire music in the album in 2 weeks and recorded it in 2 weeks, and then shot all 22 of those videos in 2 weeks as well. and then went on tour. So I didn't really have time to think about it. I just was pouring my heart out every single day at the studio for 14, 16, sometimes 18 hours. And I never knew how much people were going to respond to it and how much of a inspiration it was going to be to people. But it was so like life-changing and heartwarming, and I felt so blessed to be able to have so many queer kids come and say I identify with the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow, to have so many parents come and say lions and tigers and bears and see your face is totally how I feel about my relationship with my child, and to have a song like Water Guns with Jordan Sparks be so relevant even after we recorded the album. The Pulse shooting happened, and I realized how important that song was, you know.
Yes.
And so I think that I was just in this creative windstorm, that I was connected to what was happening in society without realizing it. And to this day, that's my mom's favorite work that I've ever done. She just loves Straight Outta Oz so much, and I love it. Every time I sit down and watch it, I just get chills all over again, because it was such a tornado to create it, that I almost don't really remember being there. Like I was there physically, but spiritually and emotionally, I was all over the place. And so it's very interesting to watch it, because it felt like an out-of-body experience to create that visual album.
Yeah, well, I can tell you for sure, your mother and I have something in common. Over Straight Out of Oz. I encourage all of our viewers, if you haven't gone back, if you don't know a whole lot about Todrick Hall, of all of the things that he has done in his career, all you have to do is go into YouTube, go to YouTube and start watching. I guarantee you will fall into a rabbit's hole, and it will be video after video after video. And of course, one of the big features is Low with RuPaul. And in fact, from my amateured seat, one of the best performances I've ever seen RuPaul do, which I think is interesting. I have a friend that asked me to ask you very specifically, so please forgive me, I'm asking for a friend. Are you a good bitch or a bad bitch? Are you a good witch or a bad witch? Which is it, are you?
It depends on the day. Sometimes I'm a good witch, but some days I am definitely a bad bitch. And that's what I like about life. I think it's funny that you asked that, but I think that so often in society, people want to put you in a box, as I said, and that's not always just entertainment-wise and what are you and what you identify as, but people like to say that someone is a good person or a bad person, and I think that we all wake up and have days where we do nice things, and some days we have days where we're like, I kind of regret that, and I think that's part of life. And I think that's been one of my most difficult parts of growing up and being a public figure over the past decade and a half. A lot of things have changed, and people tend to try to like make you fit into a box. And I'm a human being, and I'm nuanced. I am not black or white. I am like definitely, you know, like somewhere in the middle, in a gray area sometimes. And I love that about myself, and I wouldn't change that for the world, you know. I wish that I could be more consistently a good bitch, a good witch, but I'm definitely a bad bitch sometimes.
Yeah, I love both sides of it, which is what Straight Out of Oz represents. And it's a great transition to ask you, and one of the areas that you have delved into is your social media influence and reality. You did the Masked Singer. You made the final three. You were second place as the bull. Was that a good experience for you, doing reality music show like that? Different, very different than your initiation in American Idol. Was it fun for you? Did you enjoy it?
It was a blast. That was one of the best times I've ever had doing reality television. I loved, you know, it was the perfect combination of theatrics and pop culture and talent. I loved being able to like become the bull and move like him. It was always a dream of mine as a kid to be a costume character, a costume performer at Disney or one of the big theme parks. And I never got that opportunity to do that. So I pretty much lived out that fantasy when I was doing Masked Singer. I absolutely loved it. It was such a great time for me, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. That was so much fun.
Yeah, and last year, of course, I don't know if I'm proud or ashamed. I'm a big fan of Big Brother, and last year you did Celebrity Big Brother. What was that experience like
Yes.
for you? Did you enjoy that?
I think that Big Brother was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. I don't know that I enjoyed it, but I am grateful that I did it. I feel like that experience like helped me realize how much we curate our lives, and I don't really hang out with a lot of straight men. I tend to hang out with people who are my age or younger most of the time. And so to be in a house where people were just quiet and baking cakes, for there to be no music, for you to not be able to see the sky for 30 days, for you to not be able to be on the phone, to have no internet, to not, like, to not have freedom, to not be able to go even use the bathroom in peace, to share a bathroom with a bunch of strangers is a very difficult thing for somebody who is as energetic as I am, and my days are packed full of things. I never have off days where I'm just sitting around lounging in bed. To sit down for 30 days and do basically nothing most of the time was very, 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 very difficult for me. I am ADHD. It is very hard for me to just sit still. And I think that was the part that I was not expecting. I never realized how much I say yes to so many things to just be active and just have something to do. And yeah, it was insane to do that.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm glad that I did it. I was such a huge fan of the show.
Yeah, you did pretty well. You were the runner-up, so even with all of those difficulties, you performed very well. I hope everybody sees what you're going to see October 9th at the Parker at Broward Performing Arts Center is not just one Todrick Hall. You're going to see all of these different kinds of Todrick Hall that comes to this stunning new performance, the show called The Velvet Rage. You don't want to miss it. We'll tell you about tickets in a moment. Todrick, I'm curious, you have VIP opportunities. People get to meet you at the concert if they would like those special kind of tickets. I've got that right, don't I?
Yes, they have VIP tickets that allow you early admittance into the theater. You have the seats that are the closest to the stage. There are exclusive VIP merch items that are not available to the rest of the audience. And yeah, we take photos together quickly after the show, and I get to meet people and hug them and hear their stories as to why they were inspired to come to me. They followed me. And that's always really inspirational to me because I'm not an artist that auditioned for a TV show and became famous from being on High School Musical or something. Most of the people that come watch me were not my fans on American Idol and found me because of the work that I created. And when you're an artist that creates your music and writes every single lyric of every single one of your songs, like a Taylor Swift, like an Adele, you are just very, very grateful for people to come in and know your words and know your lyrics and to be inspired by the work that you create. I think it just hits differently. And being an independent artist with no record label and no brand deals or sponsorships, to do this by myself is so difficult. So I'm always just so incredibly grateful to all the people who choose to come out and support me the way they do.
Well, that scared gay kid in Plainsville, Texas, he's done pretty well for our community, and we're very grateful for it. You don't want to miss it. Todrick Hall is going to be at Broward Center for the Performing Arts, the Parker, on Monday, October 9th, an 8 p.m. performance. It's going to be very exciting. You're going to see all of these combinations. It's not just a stand and sing. You're really going to experience, literally, a show. You can get more information. Make sure you go to todrickhall.com. For more information, you can follow, and also you can go to browardcenter.org. And make sure you look at all of Todrick's social media, YouTube, TikTok, etc., etc., etc. It's super easy to find because millions and millions of people are following Todrick Hall. The entire South Florida community is looking forward to seeing you Monday, October 9th. And thank you so much for joining us today on Unapologetically Queer.